Hello and welcome to The Print. I'm Snehesh Alex Philip. The hostilities between India and Pakistan has finally come to an end. At least we hope so, right? Both India and Pakistan have announced cessation of firing on land, air, and in sea. But why did the cessation of firing really happen? Why did the Pak DGMO reach out to India? To understand this, I have with me former Northern and Central Army Commander, Lieutenant General H S Panag. Welcome to the Print, sir.
Thank you, Snehesh. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
So, in the last 84, 86 hours, a lot has happened, right? But can you tell us the significance of what India has done?
I think the significance of what India has done lies in the fact that the recent announcement made that terrorism is an act of war. That means we have set a new normal, that in future, any act of terrorism in India will be considered as an act of war, and India will respond militarily and against military targets and the terrorist centers. So this is the clear message. A new normal has been laid down, and this is how we will function. And I think in a manner, we have reimposed our deterrence on Pakistan.
So why would you say that we've reimposed our deterrence on Pakistan? What is it that that India has done as the new deterrence line for Pakistan?
You see, this has been a dilemma for India of the last 35 years of the proxy war in Jammu and Kashmir. How to deter Pakistan from doing so? Now, then in the beginning there was no nuclear shield, but then came the nuclear umbrella that Pakistan has. And we have gone through a Prakram, we have gone through a limited war, limited in time and space. That is the Kargil war. We have done the surgical strikes. We have tried the diplomatic route. We have done the Balakot strikes. But it did not deter Pakistan. So either we had to go in for a full-fledged limited war to defeat Pakistan and impose our will. And that has got its limitations in keeping in view the nuclear umbrella and India's own standing as a world power. And we don't want to upset the India story, which is, a Viksit Bharat by 2047. So for these reasons, we had to do something below the threshold of a full-fledged conventional war. And we tried it earlier in a limited manner. It didn't succeed because we did not climb the escalatory ladder that time. This time we gradually climbed the escalatory ladder. And there's one more difference that helped us impose the deterrent. And that is technology. And if I may, dare, I will just give you excerpt from an article that I wrote in 2019, just after the Balakot strikes.
Yeah.
And I said that we require overwhelming technological edge over Pakistan to deter Pakistan from doing what it is doing. And then I assumed that we have done the upgradation, and the paragraph, it's a short paragraph, just listen to it. It goes like this. Now, this was written in 2019. I said, fast forward to 2022. After a major terrorist attack in Jammu and Kashmir, the international media reported that multiple terrorist targets had been hit by armed drones in Pakistan, which claimed to have shot down one armed drone. India denied having launched the attack. The following night, India shot down 2 intruding Pakistani armed drones. Pakistan Air Force also engaged multiple targets with standoff missiles and bombs being fired by aircraft flying in own airspace. India responded by using its long-range air defense systems and shot down 2 aircraft 40 to 50 kilometers inside Pakistan. Thereafter, all went quiet on the Western Front. Over the next 1 year, one more flare-up took place with similar results. Covert talks began between India and Pakistan, and the security situation in Jammu and Kashmir underwent a turn for the better. Now, this was written by me
This prophecy.
6 years ago.
Yeah, this was like a prophecy that you had given out in 2019.
Exactly. And so we have got a technological edge, but I would say, in the words of Ord Wingate, he used to say, to the best of best, good, but not good enough. That means good, but we have to be better. We must make high-end military technology out of reach of Pakistan. Our economy is 5 to 6 times of Pakistan. Our defense budget is 10 times of Pakistan. We must make our high-end military technology out of reach of Pakistan. We must have so much of it, and so good we must be at it.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about the fact that that the defense spending and defense modernization has to be the key focus over the next 5 to 10 years. You rightly mentioned that in terms of technology, on certain trends, on on loitering munitions, on long-range precision weapons, and on air defense, India is much ahead of Pakistan. But the gap needs to be much wider, and for that, a lot of investment and a lot of thinking, focused approach has to be there, which I hope the government would do, having seen, having gone through, this escalation ladder. But so, while we talk about escalation ladder, the fact is that India did not, initiate the escalation ladder. India went ahead and struck at the terror camps. Many people would say, look back and, say that, but, there was no Hafiz Saeed there. There was no Maulana Masood Azhar there in those camps when India struck. But the fact is that India was sending out a clear message. Now, Pakistan retaliated by trying to carry out certain drone and missile warfare. And in that, the real hero who emerged was the air defense grid of both the Indian Army and the Indian Air Force. Do you think that India's air defense personnel emerged as heroes, sir?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Because there were 3 nights of drone attacks: the 7th, the 8th, and the 9th.
Yeah.
And it began on a smaller note on the 7th, and to which India responded the next day by using the Harop onto the air defense sites in Pakistan, and we knocked out the air defense system. Whether it was HQ-9 or HQ-16, it's still not clear. And on the 8th night, then Pakistan launched drone swarms. And reports say that up to 400 drones were launched, right from Srinagar down to Sir Creek.
Yeah.
Though Pakistan was a little ahead of us in drone warfare, because I have been hearing about Pakistani drones for the last 25 years. And they have certain amount of indigenous development also done. Then the Chinese technology is also available, but the high-end drones are imported from China as well as from Turkey. Now, from the reports that I have seen and what I have gathered, is that most of these drones were toy drones. They were not military drones. And the fact that they were flying at night, most didn't have night sights, which makes the drone very expensive. When you put night sights and you have a first-person view drone, it becomes a little more costly. These drones were also used as part of cyber warfare. There were actual drones also. As I said, it was a mix of toy drones and the actual drones. So the idea was to locate it was a sort of a poor man's SEAD, suppression of enemy air defense. And to locate, our radars will open up, the weapon radars will open up, sites will get located, which can be targeted either by follow-up drones or by missiles, subsequently. And more than that, it was cyber war. I mean, imagine drone attacks taking place and reports coming in on the media, and on the eighth night, I mean, our television media went berserk. Absolutely, the people couldn't fathom what the hell has happened. You know, where all are the drone strikes? So it was also cyber. I would say, in terms of, if you compare it to what has happened in Ukraine, this was just about 30% of that, just 30%. But our response was good, and we were clever enough. What I have gathered is not to fire at the decoy drones, not to fire at the toy drones, and we had the technology to discern between the actual drones and the decoys. We mostly used our L-70s, our Zu-23s,
Yeah.
and the Shilkas.
Yeah.
Of course, we have the S-400, which was not used. You don't waste S-400 for firing on toy drones or little bigger drone too. I mean, it's meant for much bigger targets. The Barak may have been used, the Barak 8, as well as a very notable performance has been given by our own Akash. Right. And the world has taken note of it, that this technology has really come of age. But what we need to do is we need to have much more. We need to have, and plus, as I would say, in addition to the air defense, is what is called integrated anti-UA unmanned aerial vehicle system. That also we had in place, but it needs to become more sophisticated. And our EW also has to become more sophisticated, but it was a job well done. So the three nights of this would I say, cyber plus drone warfare was actually neutralized by the air defense.
Yes, and that is true. From the information that I have gathered and from what I reported is that the S-400 was used once, and it was successfully used. The rest of these drones, what the Indian Defense and Security Establishment felt was that these were more to probe and find out the positions of the Indian air defense systems.
Absolutely.
And hence, most of these drones, as you rightly mentioned, were taken down by the Army air defense guns. You also had, when missiles were fired by Pakistan, including an attempt that was done at one of our air bases in Haryana. The SAM were activated, and these were the MR SAMs, that is the Akash. And Akash was sold to the Armenians. The Akash is now currently under discussion for procurement by several other countries, including by France. So, but one thing, we were able to suppress the Pakistani drones. Both the toy drones, as you say, then the loitering munitions, as well as Pakistani missiles also. They used the surface-to-surface missiles to target Indian thing. All were taken down. We retaliated by launching our own loitering munitions and armed drones, right? And these drones went, I have a story coming up, but I can say that these drones went even up to Rawalpindi. How is it that the so-called Pakistani air defense were not able to shoot them down? While Pakistan has, of course, claimed that they managed to shoot down 6 or 10 of them, I'm not able to put out the full information that I have, but the attacks were much larger, and there was a clear messaging. Did the Chinese air defense that Pakistan uses fail them?
No, I think the systems that we were using mostly, I think, Israeli systems. They have highly sophisticated electronic countermeasure suits. And these have proved to be very, very, very effective. And also, a lot depends upon the routing that you take for the drone and at the altitude at which you are flying. But certainly, our drones were able to penetrate. Though Pakistan has claimed that they have shot down, 25 of our drones. No, that's
which is fine. Which is fine.
Yeah, I mean,
shot down.
Yeah, there is give and take. There's give and take. So they have claimed that they shot down 25 drones. But I think the most important thing is the others went through. And if you get a system like HQ9, or you get a major radar site, after all, what is CAD? CAD is to get the main radars, to get a AVAC, to get a complete weapon system. I mean, imagine the loss of an S-400, which Pakistan claims and which has not taken place, but they have lost an air defense system.
Actually, for viewers, SEAD is suppression of air defense of the enemy. So whenever an operation is held, you will have, a SEAD operation being undertaken to ensure that the enemy air defenses are down so that the Air Force can move in. And once the Air Force is able to establish a kind of aerial supremacy is when the ground forces also move in. So I think that is what Pakistan was trying to do with this drone, was to find out where the Indian air defenses systems were so that they could carry out a SEAD operation later on. But there was, India fired more than just drones. Now, to send out a clear message to Pakistan when they tried to hit the Indian air base in Sirsa, India fired back by using air-launched weapons. And these missiles, with their high precision, struck at multiple air bases of Pakistan, sending out a clear message to Pakistan that India can get you where it wants to get you. And the Pakistani air defenses were not able to counter any of these single missiles that were fired. So, for our viewers, General Panag, could you please tell us what were these bases that India targeted and what were the significance of these bases?
Yeah, Snehesh, see, when something happened on the first night, and I think we can discuss that first, or we can take up that part later. Something happened on the first night, and that was, see, this air battle was not all about our aircraft up in the air and shooting, at the 9 terrorist hubs in Pakistan and POK. There's much more to it than that. No, that's not in public domain. Yeah. I have analyzed it as a military analyst from open sources and what is available in the international media, plus what has come up on social media, both from India as well as from Pakistan, what was available. And what I have pieced together is something like this, that, it was not a question of, 8, 7, 8, 9, 10 or 12 aircraft launching air-launched weapon systems. We had approximately 85 aircraft in the air.
About 80, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So there's complete packages in various sectors. There were packages that meant for catering for the the cover, the aerial air defense cover from the air. So plus AVACs would have been up. The aerial EW and control platforms would have been up. The aerostats would have been functioning. So it was the first high-tech air war fought in the subcontinent. I think probably anywhere in the world, because American Air Force, Israeli Air Force has been operating against unequals. There's asymmetry there. They're far superior. So this is the first air war between 4.5 generation, 4 generation, fighters. And at first time it has happened, and the whole world is going to learn lessons from it. So we had these 85 aircraft up. As soon as the Pakistan radars picked up our aircraft, though we were well in our own territory, their aircraft also went up in their own territory. And the electronic warfare systems and everything started, operating at each other. Radar jamming was taking place. So it's a multiple actions are taking place. While our targeting lasted 25 minutes, but the whole operation, beginning with the first, as soon as the aircraft went up, lasted over 1 hour.
Yeah.
Now, what apparently happened was that in this whole game, which requires careful coordination between the AVAC, between the fighters, between the ground controllers, and EW aircraft. So while we were at doing this talk, and then certain aircraft, mind you, switch off their electronics to not to give signatures. But then these can be manipulated by showing false movements and certain things are on. So apparently what happened is that while these was on, there was Pakistani Air Force also was up in the air, and about 40 aircraft were used by them. And so then they fired at the Indian aircraft, not necessarily the ones which were carrying out the engagement. It could have been the ones which were providing the cover at the back, and who were having their electronics off. So with this, they've used the PL-15 air-to-air missile from the J-10. This is what most of the reports say. And this is the first time a Chinese weapon system has been used against the Western weapon systems, you can say, although we had Russian weapon systems also. And apparently we lost some aircraft. The figures propaganda figures go up to as high as 5. Then there are other more modest figures saying about 2 to 3. I would say that in such engagements, this was bound to happen. But what was the end result of this? That both air forces went into the pens. So on the 7th, after this engagement at night, the aircraft were not seen in the air, nor were they seen on the 8th, nor were they seen on the 9th. I mean, imagine that if Pakistan was carrying out SEAD, why did they not use their standoff aerial weapons from their own side? Why did they not use air-to-ground weapons to target our air defense systems? Why were they doing all this, this thing with the drone swarms, which made largely of low-end technology drones, which were ineffective? So the air forces actually went off there because it was the first time it had happened, and it took time for both the air forces to understand what are the implications of this kind of warfare. We saw a small trailer of it during Balakot, but this was at a much larger scale. So countermeasures were being worked out, these things were being evolved. So now coming to the question that you asked me, about no, one more before I just me just add one more thing. So of course questions have been raised to why didn't we shoot the
because the sectors that they were in, the S-400s covered that.
Yeah, so we could have used the S-400 also to fire at them. But then please remember that with so many aircraft, up in the air, there is a problem for the air defense, ground-to-air weapon systems to be used. It requires much more coordination. A simpler way is let them not fire at that time. Because so many things can happen. I mean, imagine, as I said, 125 aircraft up in the air, and at night. Not that night matters in terms of modern weapon systems. So it could have happened, but didn't happen. So for whatever reasons, and that's what will be analyzed by the air warriors in due course. Now coming back to what happened. Now you see with what we also realized that with this kind of drone warfare that was continuing for 3 nights, that Pakistan was reaching the end of its what should I say, innovations. So it had been innovative so far, but it was reaching the end of its innovations. And it also exposed its drone limitations. It exposed the limitations of its missiles. I mean, whatever it tried, even when they did the drone attacks on the 8th and 9th, I believe 6 or 8 missiles were fired.
Yes.
So they also were neutralized. And any attempt of them reaching our airfields were neutralized. Now, when we launched, then again, I'm not too sure whether we had air-launched weapon systems or we used only surface-to-surface missiles. Okay, it could be a combination. But whatever it was, right from Skardu up north, and right down to Sucker, and I do not know whether Munir was targeted in near Karachi. Uh, about a dozen airfields, major radar sites, defense installations were targeted. Notably, Jacobabad
Yeah.
and Skardu. Now, Skardu is a short distance from the, as the crow flies, short distance from the China-Pak economic corridor. And Jacobabad is across it in Balochistan. It's close to Quetta. So it is. So we were bold enough, and then Pakistan's air defense was exposed. That none of our missiles or none of the air-to-ground weapon systems were intercepted.
Yeah.
So this was the real success, and the Indian missiles, as well as the weapon systems we have from air to ground, have come of age, and it was proven. And Pakistan had no counter to it. So Pakistan is a professional army. I mean, let's accept that, and it's not the last time we'll face it. We'll face it again, and we'll deal with it. It's a very innovative army. Its decision execution cycle is very small and very fast. So it is able to innovate very quickly. And the PAF has been very innovative, right from the 1965 days, and they take great pride in it. And our Air Force is no less. So I would say that this escalation that we finally did, to which Pakistan had no answer. So while it had an answer in a limited way. It came back to us with drones. When we launched our drone strikes, it came back with swarm drones, but then they were not of very high technology. To our air attacks, it came back with air-to-air engagements. But against the final lethal weapon of ours, the ground-to-ground missiles and the air launch systems that we launched at their this thing. And this time we had taken the precautions of not to get entrapped or ambushed by their aircraft firing from that side or their missiles. So we probably took countermeasures for that, and we had whatever our flight patterns were. So it was a great success. And this is what I think finally clinches the issue. And this is the biggest lesson for us, that you have to, the escalation has to be controlled by us. We are a responsible power. We cannot dent the India story.
Yeah.
So the world must consider us as a responsible power, that we have exhibited our strength, and despite minor setbacks and all that may have been there, and we can do it again. So this was, I would say, a real success story. The deterrent has been reimposed on Pakistan, but to maintain it and reuse it if required, we must, as I said at the very beginning, widen this technology gap and take it beyond Pakistan's reach.
So, in your sense, what is the message that has been delivered to Pakistan? While India is a responsible country, India has not climbed the escalatory ladder on its own. It responded to whatever Pakistan did. And I'm quite happy to note that at some points we actually sent out a really strong message. Even though we didn't escalate, we just responded how Pakistan has done. But in your sense, what is the message that Pakistan will, carry from this skirmish that has been there?
You see, one is this so-called nuclear umbrella that Pakistan had, or I would say the nuclear threshold it talks about, the nuclear backdrop, that I'll use my nuclear weapons. Though Pakistan, for whatever its problems, I mean, whatever we may say in a fit of, spike, what is the pike, that you are this, you are that, but it is finally still a Westphalian state. Yeah. However bad it may be, and it still needs money. It still has an economy to run. It still needs good relations with other countries. It's not an anarchical state to that extent. I mean, I'm very clear on that.
Absolutely, I agree with you on that.
So now, it also simply cannot throw bombs here and throw bombs there. So we have, by avoiding ground operations, though I am an advocate of that we simultaneous ground operations in Jammu and Kashmir, which is POK is our territory, and we should be free to go, to do something that we want there, and we have declared it to be our territory in the parliamentary resolutions. But keep avoiding ground operations and also carefully controlling the escalation prevents, nuclear brinkmanship. So this has been proven now in this, where Balakot was very, relatively very low end. This was high end affair. And we avoided, bringing our Navy in. So basically, this was an air war and an air defense war. To that extent, the army was involved, and also probably the army was involved in targeting some initial targets with drones under the control of the army, or the special forces, the smaller terrorist hubs that we targeted. So this is one message, and secondly is terrorism is an act of war. That in future so our decision cycle will be shorter. Like I lamented in one of my articles on the 1st of this month, when I said that now the surprise is no longer there, because Pakistan has taken all the precautions, and we have given open warnings, and declarations have been made. The Prime Minister said so publicly, and then officially we did it in a declaratory manner and displayed it, that we have given directions to the armed forces. So it is now war from a position of disadvantage. But I think that restricting it to the use of the Air Force, ground-to-ground missiles and air defense, we were carefully able to not only control the escalation, manage the nuclear brinkmanship, if at all it came into play. I don't think it came into play. And also proved that with our resources, which are far superior to Pakistan, we'll exhaust him in a matter of days in terms of sheer use of the numbers that we use. Our technology was superior. So this is the lesson, that in future, if such a thing takes place, then we don't have to firstly wait so long.
Yeah.
So with what lessons that we have learned from here, so we can launch a punitive action, or and carefully controlled escalation thereafter, again, repeatedly, so long as we maintain the overwhelming technological edge. So deterrence imposed, and if required, it will be reimposed, but contingent on the technological edge. And for that, we require money. Our budget has to go up by clear 1% of the GDP, and the nation will rise to the occasion. If additional tax has to be paid, I think the citizens will not begrudge it. And 1% of the GDP, if we go up, that will meet all our needs for the next 10 years, and not only with Pakistan, but also with China. And on China, I just want to say one word, the China factor, while China also put pressure on Pakistan because of China-Pak economic corridor, because it has invested very heavily into it. China also doesn't want, a bigger flare-up. Two, I have mentioned it repeatedly in my articles, that Chinese electronic warfare, cyber warfare is omnipresent. There are reports in the media, and there are Chinese bloggers who have been saying it also, and there is always an element of truth in what they say, that in the air battle that took place on the night, on the early hours of the 7th, that the Chinese electronic and cyber warfare were at play. Apart from the fact that the equipment was Chinese, apart from the fact that the aerial electronic warfare and control system was Chinese, J3 or something, but it was at play. So this kind of collusion, I will not rule out in future. And this is also a lesson learned for us, if in case of any kind of our conflict with China, if it ever takes place. Incidentally, one PL-15 missile intact has come into our possession, which didn't fire or didn't burst. It is on the ground. So it gives us an opportunity to analyze their best of best air-to-air missiles.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, General Panag, for speaking to the print. I think India sent out a clear message to Pakistan, and I hope Pakistan is able to stick to the lesson that has been delivered, right? But thank you so much, sir, for speaking to the.
Yeah. Thank you, Snehesh. It's a pleasure talking to you. And I salute all personnel of the armed forces, and particularly our air defense warriors and the Indian Air Force. And my compliments to their chief, who stood like a rock.
True. There is no doubt about it. True heroes. Thank you so much, General.
Thank you, Snehesh.